I'm sure everybody's loving this.
Inner broadcast studio. Hold on,
there he is. There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, World Series champion Todd Stottlemyre is in the house. So yeah.
You know what I tell my kids all the time, you can't fix stupid.
Well,
I'm not fixable.
That was not you, man. That was all me. Guys, look at this. Is this not the comments are already coming in, or the question. So we'll get to that question in a minute, Gary. If you want to ask a question where we were able to see it, then go to this streamyard.com/Facebook and you'll be able to type questions so we can see them. World Series champion right here, Todd Stottlemyre. Such an honor. Such an incredible honor to have him here with us. It's welcome, my friend. I'm gonna give you a better introduction than that, but I just want to say,
no. Listen, stop. I don't deserve anything more than that. Other than listen, I just tell the group real quick is we got a chance to meet in Dallas, Texas. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that was a few years back, and actually. That was more than 5 years ago now. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
And a friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, introduced us. We went to dinner. And I got to tell you, you blew me away with your baseball knowledge and how you love the game, how you you're an honest critic when the game deserves criticism. And I appreciate it. I remember that dinner, and a lot of times, you go to dinner and you meet someone and they just beat you down the whole time. And it was funny because I was like asking you questions. And what I realized then is that here you are, just an incredible fan of the game, love the game, know the game. And I was like, man, this guy knows more about the game than I do. I'm in trouble here at this dinner. But I got to tell you something. From there, our relationship developed. You were so great and so kind. You endorsed my first book. We then did an event together in St. Louis, and I brought some people together to listen to you about learning how to memorize things and increase their memory and this and that. And I just remember that the people that I brought to that group, how you blew them away just with your humility, your expertise, your skills, how you worked with people, how you cared about them. So for me, man, I'm happy, I'm honored, I'm humbled to hang out with you on this. And listen, at the end of the day, we get to talk about something really, really cool. That's the sport of baseball, something we didn't even think. I mean, if we look back a few months, we weren't even sure if there was going to be a baseball season. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that here we get a chance to chat about a World Series. And we know we got two great teams in the World Series with great talent. I mean, just not – what's crazy is the talent on both sides is so phenomenal, and I look at some of this talent today and I'm like, sometimes I laugh. Sometimes I'm like, man, I don't even know if I would get a look in today's game. I mean, you got guys like last night, you look at that game, Clayton Kershaw, like I tip my hat. I'm so happy for him. But you got a guy that's a seasoned veteran lefty. It's got, 3 or 4 pitches, throwing 92, 93, going up against the modern day starting pitcher, throwing 98 to 100.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you see all these guys throwing 97, 98, 99, 100. And I'm at home watching on TV going, I don't even think I could make a club in my prime today. And I'm like,
I don't know about that, but
I'm like, they might have thought I was the BP pitcher, man. And I'm like, and the talent, mind-boggling, the talent today. And these teams, I'm so fired up for these teams. And they've played hard. They played through a lot of crap, Ron. You know that. And this whole thing with COVID and all the things they had to do. And to go out and play and try to become and be the best on that given day with no fans, no media. So you got to take all of that out of the game. And then internally as an athlete, you got to get up to compete at the highest level without the ambiance and the environment of a Major League Baseball game. That's not easy. That's not easy to do because they're conditioned to perform at high levels with high energy, high environment, fans, media. when you walk into a stadium, half the people hate you, half the people love you. They didn't have any of that, and you just go play the game. And so I tip my hat to these guys. So that's not easy to do. Anyway.
No,
man.
I've got so many questions for you and so many things I want to talk about, but and all the questions are equal. Some are about your dad and some are about your book and your Facebook group. And I think it's the World Series right now. So maybe the first one to start with here, and I definitely want to talk about your dad too, but one of the first ones I think is your first World Series. It went to Game 7, I believe. Is that right, or was that your second one?
No, what's crazy? It went. Actually, both those World Series I played in went Game 6, Game 6.
Oh, Game 6. Okay, so it was Game 6.
The year when Game 7 was against the Yankees in 2001, I was on the injured reverse on the injury list, and all year because of arm and this and that. So I was kind of like, it was funny. I had the best seat in the house in 2001. And I remember sitting there and my dad across the field in the other dugout. And all I did was work with Brindley and Bob Melvin trying to steal my dad's signs. And I'm like, he went to whatever, and here I am analyzing my father as my dad gives all the signs, trying to figure out pickoffs and this and that. And me and Bob Melvin was sitting in the corner, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm going to war against my father. I'm going to war. So I was kind of like, that year, it was weird. I was kind of like a designated, I don't want to say coach, but because there were such great athletes on that team, but I was kind of just like a support guy, wore my uniform every day, sat in the dugout, had the best seat in the house. I was great. I will tell you this, I was so grateful that I got a chance to play in the 92-93 World Series, because if that would have been my only time to a World Series and then be on the disabled list, that would have been a different emotion. But I had so much fun in 2001 because I'd come to the stadium every day without that engine running that I was going to compete. But yet, because I'd been there and played in all those games and in some cases pitched really good, in some cases pitched just so bad. So bad. So I was on both ends of the spectrum, so I could help people. Here, when things didn't go well, here's what happened. The game got bigger than the game itself. Here's when I did well was I focused on the game and blocked everything else. So it was a unique place to be. But that year went Game 7, and Game 7, the starting pitchers, I got goosebumps, man. The starting pitchers that in Game 7, Curt Schilling against Roger Clemens.
Right.
Like, what? I mean, hey, man, I got my seat. I'm like, this is going to be a great show. And then here's what was really crazy. Randy Johnson the night before threw a complete game against the New York Yankees and came in to close out Game 7 the very next day after throwing about 140 pitches the night before. Right. And then closed the game, I think he became the winning pitcher in Game 7. I think he came in and was tied. But it was like unbelievable. I mean, I laugh. I see these guys, on 3 days rest and this and that. I'm like, yeah, try throwing 140, 150 pitches and come out and close the next game out and pitch a couple innings. I mean, it's like, but that's what he did. And it was remarkable. So anyways.
No, I remember that World Series vividly because it was right after September 11th. And, the nation was just, it was so crazy that it was after September 11th. And
yeah.
So, and the Yankees made the World Series and they were in the AL. That's 2001. Yeah. It was right after September 11th.
It's the only year the world wanted the Yankees to win.
Well, that's right.
Every other year is like, hell with those guys. That's the only year they were like, oh, poor New York. I hope the Yankees win this year. And it's the year they didn't win.
Now that base hit, Luis Gonzalez hit, that was a result of the infield being shifted or in or something like that. That wouldn't have happened, right?
They were drawn in. Yeah.
Trying to play at the plate or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Great times, man.
So I want to, and here in 1 second, I'm going to drop a link to Todd's Facebook group, and I want you to join it. It's not strictly about baseball. It's a lot about motivation and success and life. And well, you tell them.
Well, Ron, everything that, it's my second book. I'm so proud of it because, and I wrote it as a story. So there's characters in this book. Unlike my first book, Relentless Success, I just kind of wrote about principles that my father passed along to me, and that, people like Tony La Russa, and then having a lot of great teammates. I was very lucky, man. A lot of the teams I played on, a lot of those guys ended up in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I remember one year in 92 or 93, I think it was 93, that 4 of our starters for the Toronto Blue Jays are in the Hall of Fame. 4 starters.
Wow.
And when you think about it, when you look back, it's like you had 4 guys that played in that series that went on to the Hall of Fame. So those were the guys, that I got to learn from, reflect from. I had a front row seat to all the routines and rituals. So I wrote about that in Relentless Success. This book is different. I wrote it as a story form that's based, it's based, not the whole book, but a lot of the book is based on real life story that our family went through, and I went through. And this book really began in 1981. And the reason I say that is because that's the year I was 15 years old. My little brother was 11. I gave him a bone marrow transplant. And because my marrow, his body didn't accept my marrow. And because of it, he went into a coma. He was battling leukemia for the 3rd time. And because of my marrow, he went into a coma, and then he went on to heaven. And at 15 years old, I looked at my little brother that night at about 2:20 a.m., had taken his last breath, and it was over. And the only thought I had, man, was I just killed my little brother. And at 15, it was hard for me, even at that time, to look at my parents because I had such guilt. But I not only had guilt, I had traditional sadness. But I not only had traditional sadness, I had hate. I was mad. I was mad at the world that my little brother was just taken from me, and he was 11 years old. I was 15. And I carried that. And I never healed that pain. And what would happen to me either in a baseball game or even in life, you get into a situation you can't control, and the hate and guilt would show back up, because whatever you don't heal continues to show back up. And that was my problem. And in 1993, I'll never forget, it was 1993. We just won our 2nd championship. We won back-to-back world championships. I'm 28 years old, making millions of dollars. Here I am on the Toronto Blue Jays. And from the outside looking in, if you looked at me from the outside, you'd be like, wow, look at this young guy. His father played. He grew up in Yankee Stadium. Now he's a 2-time world champion. He's making millions of dollars. Like, he literally has everything except for one thing. When I stared in the mirror, I could not stand the person looking back at me. On the inside, I was dark, and I was carrying around anchors and baggage of more than a decade of pain and guilt. And I needed help, man. And I remember I called my buddy and my mentor, Dave Stewart, and we were teammates in 93. And at the end of the season, when it was all over, I was like, I don't like the way I'm performing. I don't like the way I react. I don't like who I am. I don't like what I see in the mirror. And I called Dave and I said, Dave, I'm going to ask you about a guy because I'd heard a lot about this guy. And when I say his name, I want the first thing that comes to your mind. He says, okay, I'm ready. And I was on the phone with him. I was at home in Florida. And I said, the guy's name is Harvey Dorfman. He said, Todd, hang up the phone and call him right now. Harvey Dorfman at the time was bigger than life when it came to mindset for baseball and for baseball guys and psychology and all that. And I hung up the phone. I called Harvey and I said, Harvey, this is Todd Stottlemyre. Here's what Harvey said. He says, I've been waiting on you. And I was like, man, I need help. He says, no problem. We're going to work through things. So it was sometime later. And this was like now, November, after World Series and all. Me and Harvey met in January at a hotel room in Florida. We spent 12 hours together. Here's what happened. He'd done all his research. He knew the pain I was in. He asked me, he said, Todd, I got to ask you something. This was in our first hour of a 12-hour meeting. He said, Todd, would you do it all over again? And I said, do what? He says, would you do that bone marrow thing? Would you do that? Would you give your little brother that bone marrow? Would you give it to him all over again? I said, man, Harv. And, you know, I was emotional, had tears running down my eyes. And I said, Harv, I said, I'd do it every minute of every hour of every day of every week. I said, I'd lay down. I'll do anything I could. He says, didn't you do that? I said, yeah, I did that. And then he got right in my face and he says, then let it go, champ. And I was like, wow, he's right. I already did it. I did everything I could do. It wasn't in my control. So why am I carrying this hate of the world and this guilt around? And then he said something so important. He says, if you would have said no, then I would have told you, then change now to honor the defeat. But you can never become the best version of yourself carrying yesterday's baggage along with you. You have to free yourself. And I was like, wow. And then the last 30 minutes of our 12-hour deal, he put me on a 7-day challenge. And that 7-day challenge, he said, look, here's the deal. You're going to go through challenges and obstacles over the next 7 days. You are not allowed to respond to any of it. What someone cut you off in traffic, you're not allowed to respond. You're only during those challenges, when you start to get this intensity, he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to observe, how are you thinking?
Wow.
And then he goes, and I want you to observe how you are feeling. And then you're not allowed to react. You're only allowed to document those feelings. And in 7 days, we'll have a call. And that was the beginning of this book that I wrote called The Observer. See, the observer lives between stimulus and reaction. And you think about the world that we're in today, the race world, the political world, the spiritual world. Think about all of the hate and all of the response that people are throwing up all over themselves, everywhere. And just think that how many times you make someone feel like crap and you walk away later saying, I wish I wouldn't have done that. That's becoming the observer. But then you need the toolbox to become the observer. And that's the story I go through in this book. It is, for me, it's a life's work. It's dealing with cancer. It's dealing with success. It's dealing with losing it all. It's all the lessons my father gave me, Hall of Fame managers, Hall of Fame teammates. It's reflection, people in the business world. Some of the greatest people and minds I've ever been around have helped me create a toolbox to overcome any situation. I always tell people, if you're not prepared when the opportunity shows up, it's too late to prepare. And most people fall short of preparation. And this book creates a toolbox for people to pursue the best version of themselves. I've heard stats where people live to 40% in their capacity. I want to help people get into that 60% and gobble up as much of it as we can. Because as we talk about my father, and I was there when my father took his last breath, I had my left hand on his heart and my right hand on his head, Ron. And I was spent that last week in the hospital with him 24 hours a day and just thanking him and being grateful for the legacy and the father and the brother and the best friend that he was to me, to my brother, to my mother, the kind of husband he was to my mother. And I was like, man, you just, and what I realized in that moment, I was so grateful, even though it was hurtful. And the reason I was grateful was because as my father took the last breath that he ever took in life on this earth, here's what I realized. He had no regret. He didn't regret not going somewhere, not doing something. My father lived life to the fullest, and he lived it in a way that people wanted to follow and people wanted to be around him. Because here's what I know. Every situation he was in, he always made everyone else feel better. And I remember I had this thing come over me like, man, I got to be more like my dad. I got to help people more like my father helped people. So today, I'm not coaching baseball. I'm just coaching people. I'm just trying to help people like, hey, at least become the observer. Create an awareness around how you think. Create an awareness around how you feel. That's why I wrote this book. And I would tell you, I'm a humble guy. I don't like promoting my stuff and what I've done and this and that because I don't think I'm anything special. I'll put my pants on one leg at a time, just like everyone else. I'm just grateful for it all, but I want to give back. And in the second half, this second part of my life is, can I take all the crap I went through that I had to overcome and help someone else that might be going through that same crap actually overcome it? I tell people, your mess is your message if you overcome your mess, but you have to overcome it. So that's where I am today, man. So I would just tell the group, listen, I don't want to talk any more about this book after this.
Well, no, man. I think everybody's
listen. These are baseball people, man. I love baseball, baseball. But I want to tell you something. You will honor me like. Listen, my book club is free, and what I'm going to do in my book club is every week in 2021, I'm just going to go through and tell people why I wrote each chapter. We're going to go through 37 chapters together. But I'm going to share with them the real life experience that I had inside that chapter. So it's really an open book and it's 100% free. It's not about making money. It's about serving and impacting. And that was my father. That's how my dad was. And I got to tell you something. He left some big shoes. I can't fill them, man. I'm going to tell you, those freaking shoes my dad wore were big freaking shoes because he for me was my hero. He was my best friend. He was my dad. He was my coach. He was my mentor. He was everything. So if you're a fan of my father, I would just tell you, then you're a friend of mine. Because like, man, I miss him so much. I tell you, I miss my dad so much, man. He was such a friend. And I just miss him so much, bro. But anyways, let's talk baseball, bro.
Well, I know you miss your dad, and you always you can just tell by when you talk, and I guess people tell you all the time about how your mannerisms are kind of like his or his look a little bit. Do you get that a lot?
Yeah. So funny. We got some. I wish I could take you on a little tour. Maybe we'll do it another time, and we'll take a tour. Nothing to do with me, but we'll take a little tour. I got some of the coolest stuff that people made for me and sent it to me. One of my best friends, he made a thing of every World Series my dad was in. He's got this thing and these pictures. He's got like stuff back from the Sporting News. Remember the Sporting News? Like when my dad was on the cover of the Sporting News or the Baseball Digest, and he had it all framed, beautiful. And it's like, man, and I got it in. So outside of my office here at my home, if you go outside of my office, there's nothing about what I did, but I will tell you what there is. My father's legacy lives on inside my home, not just based on who he was, but, heart, soul, and everything else. So, and I'm honored and humbled to put his stuff on my wall. So one of these days I'll show you some of that stuff. We'll do a video thing and have some fun with. So because the baseball people appreciate it, man. And Ron, you've done some cool stuff. This baseball talk and this and that. Because they're true fans, man. They actually love the game.
No, we do got some great. Matter of fact, we got one fan on here, and I hope Tommy Schaaf is still on. Tommy Schaaf is a friend of mine. He lives in St. Louis, and he just typed in, Todd, if I buy 50 copies to give away, will you sign a book plate? I don't know what a book plate is. I guess it's
I'll do. Listen, let me explain something. He buys 50. I'll do whatever he wants me to do.
I think he wants your autograph.
I just want to get the message out. By the way, if he's serious about buying 50 copies, go to my landing page.
The what?
Make sure he goes to my landing page. Go to toddofficial.com.
Okay.
And go click on the pre-order of the book and then go to Porchlight. Because if you buy 50 copies, I think you get like 35% off or something. I don't know.
And Tommy's dead serious.
Tell Tommy I love him. Tommy, I love you, boss. Thank you. Because I'm just trying to get the message out. So thank you. And listen, Ron, you hold me to it. Whatever Tommy wants me to do, he buys 50 books. Just tell Tommy it's done. Whatever he needs me to do.
Okay, I will.
I'm here to serve, man. Yeah.
He's the real deal. He, that the Field of Dreams, whatever, in Iowa, the movie.
Oh yeah.
Where they filmed the movie, he actually bought that property and he built a stadium there. And I believe the Yankees are going to play there next year, a one game or whatever. So Tommy's the real deal. I
gotta go see that. I gotta find a way to get there. I want to take. I need to take my son there.
Yeah, so I will. I'll tell him right now. But so you got 50 books coming from him. But go to toddofficial.com. And Todd, I got one question for you. I want you to tell, since we're World Series time, I want you to tell the story. Where were you when Joe Carter hit his home run?
Oh, you want to laugh?
Yeah.
I'm the only guy on the team that didn't see it happen live. And when it did happen, I didn't know what happened. I was warming up in the bullpen because I was going in the tie game next inning. So I'm warming up in the bullpen, and in that bullpen out in left field in Toronto, there was just a little window for the coach to peek through. But because of the wall, you couldn't see what was going on in the stadium. And as I'm warming up, the crowd goes crazy, and we actually see the ball. It comes right over the left field bullpen, the Blue Jay bullpen, and lands in and hits into the stadium. And everyone's going crazy. I'm warming up, and I'm like, they open up the gate. Everyone's running out. I'm running out on the field. I have no idea what happened other than we're running out because I guess we just won the world championship. I've never seen it live. The only time I've seen Joe Carter do that walk-off home run is on ESPN.
Oh, wow, man.
Yeah, man. I think about it. I'm running out. I don't even know what happened. I don't know how we won. I have no idea what had just happened. That was awesome.
No, that is, but it's crazy. It's a crazy story. And your first world championships, you didn't even get to see it. Now the second one, how did that game was probably less dramatic, right?
That was the second one.
That was the second one. Okay.
That was in 93. Yeah, okay. 92. 92 was cool. I had so much fun in the 92 World Series because I pitched out of the bullpen. So I got a chance to pitch that year in 4 World Series games. And I threw an inning every time. So it was kind of cool. I would throw an inning, Dwayne Ward would come in, and then Tom Hankey would come in. So I was like, hey, I would throw either the 6th or 7th inning. Right after the starter, I would come in after the starter, and then Dwayne Ward and then Tom Hankey to close the game out in 92. So 3 of those games I pitched in, we actually won those games.
Wow.
Timeout. Not because of me. I'm just saying it was cool that I got to tell you something. I loved pitching out of the bullpen because it was like you were more like an everyday player because every day, man, you're on call. You better be ready to go. And as a starter, you have a different routine. You pitch 4 days off, you kind of do your routine and then get ready for the next one. But as a reliever, man, you show up at the stadium and you might be standing on the hill that night in a big situation. So I got to tell you something this is funny. I got to tell you something funny.
Please.
So the first game, they're going to bring me in the bullpen in the 92 World Series. So the bullpen in old Fulton County Stadium, right? It was called Fulton County, right? Yeah, Fulton County Stadium. The old bullpen was on the field, okay?
Right, yeah.
By the way, that's not good.
Right. Right. It's in Oakland, I think, right?
So I get up. They call down, say, get Stott hot. I get up on the mound. The first pitch, bro, I throw in the bullpen. Instead of throwing it 60 feet, I throw it about 54 feet, choke it off, bounces in front of the catcher, gets by him, and rolls all the way to home plate. And they're calling timeout, right? Because the ball is rolling, because I'm warming up in the bullpen. And all of those fans right along that bullpen, oh, my God, did they unleash on me, man.
Right.
And I was like, welcome to the World Series. Here you go. And I think because of that, I focus, guys, you're going to laugh at this. I focused so hard on my next pitch in the bullpen, not to throw it hard, just to make sure I got it to the catcher.
Right.
Because I don't want to throw another one away. Anyways, it intensified my focus and it was a lot of fun to pitch in that World Series. But, 93 was the crazy one with the Joe Carter home run.
You said something to me 5 years ago, and it really just stuck in my head when you said it. You made a comment you said when you watch something like the World Series, you want to see every player do their best and the World Series not be lost because somebody made a terrible error and they got to live with that. You want to see everybody do their best, but somebody do just a little bit better.
Yeah. You know, that message really come from my father too, because I remember me and my dad compete when I was with the Texas Rangers.
By the way, you know, I gotta believe. I know you've won some World Series with the Blue Jays. I know you Diamondbacks. You know, I know you've done some great things, but I gotta think that was probably the highlight of your career.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. You're not gonna want to hear this. That was the best team I played on that didn't.
Oh, really?
That's the best team in '98.
Yeah.
I want you to think about that team, man. If you go back and look at that lineup and you look at the kind of year that team had offensively, that was the best team I played on that didn't win.
Right.
Hands down, by the way. Not even close.
Wow.
I mean, you got Pudge Rodriguez behind the plate. You got a guy by the name of Will Clark playing first base.
Right.
You're off to a pretty freaking good start, right?
Right.
But that team was, stacked, and they could hit, man. I remember when I went to that team for the last 2 months, they would score 10 runs just to stay in shape that night. I was like,
Juan Gonzalez, was he on the team that year?
yeah, bro. I mean, that team was, Rusty Greer out on left, Juan Gonzalez in right. Yeah, that team was stacked, man. It was an incredible team. But anyways, back to your point and your question is like, look, I pitched game 4 in '93. Might be outside of spring training. I had some of the worst performances you've ever seen in spring training, right? I mean, I could give up 10 runs in spring training like it was nothing.
Right.
And then, you'd always have the writers come to you like, you okay? I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, I just gave up 10. What's the big deal? Right. And I used to say, it's not going to be on the back of my bubblegum card. So spring training will be okay to give up 10. But I would tell you this is in game 4, I pitched in that '93 World Series, and I pitched not bad, not poor, terrible. And there's nothing worse than doing bad or being the reason. Now, I was lucky. Here's why I was lucky. I got away with it because we won.
Right.
But if we didn't win, I wouldn't have gotten away. Now, and then look at '93 and look what Mitch Williams, that poor guy, right? Blowing saves. So think about if we asked him about the '93 World Series, can you imagine the pain and the emotion? And it's like, man, that sucks because he's remembered for that. So I'm always like, man, I hope everyone plays great and someone doesn't win because of a mistake. I think I want them to win because they were just a better baseball team that night. I hate for someone to be the GOAT.
Right.
Now here's what I would tell you. When I played, I didn't care if someone was because I wanted them to be the GOAT.
Right.
But I've been that GOAT. I've been that guy. And the thing I can tell you is they don't just shake it off and go to bed that night. It's a hard night's sleep because they care so much about performing and being the best they can be. So, I always hope the best.
I do too. That's why I was so glad to see Kershaw win last night. I can't say I'm a Dodgers fan, but he's taken so much grief over the years of the playoffs, which I don't think it's all deserved. Maybe some of it is, but I don't think a lot of it is. And so I was just so great to see him shut everybody up at least for one game.
And we talked about this the other night, and I was like, hey, I think, I don't have a horse in the race, but it'd be cool. And you were like, hey, it'd be cool to see either one. I said, you know what? Actually, you're right. And you mentioned to me on the phone, wouldn't it be cool to Clayton Kershaw, to get his due? Here's what I want everyone to know. I'll just tell you that playoffs and World Series is, in fact, different than regular season. Now, he has a regular season Hall of Fame career. And then the problem is, if he doesn't pitch that way in the postseason, then people hold that against him for all of his accomplishment to have a Hall of Fame career. And that's just not right. Right. See, I want you to think about, there are guys in the Hall of Fame that never won a World Series.
Right.
So that means if you're going to hold Clayton Kershaw to that standard to getting in the Hall, You have to take everyone out of the hall that's never been in a World Series.
Right.
But here's what I'll tell you. Listen, and I know I don't want to come across as that guy, and I know there's some true blood baseball guys, and it's like, look, and they hold people accountable to performing at that level. So I'm grateful he did. Maybe it'll be what needed to happen, and maybe we'll go on to see him win another game, end up being the MVP. Wouldn't it be cool if he ended up being the MVP? If the Dodgers win, by the way, it's going to be a hard team for Clayton Kershaw to be the MVP because they got so much talent, man. I mean, look at that outfit. You got Bellinger and Mookie Betts hanging out there, and those guys. And Bellinger, first time up after the home run over, and then in the National League Series, and then come to the World Series and go deep. And it's like, if that guy gets hot, I don't know. Think about guys hitting 6 in the lineup for the Dodgers.
And he, and I've never dislocated my shoulder, so I don't know what the recovery like that is. But he dislocates his shoulder in Game 7 against the Rays, celebrating, and he's Game 1 of the World Series. I think he hit a home run. So,
yeah.
Tough guy.
It kind of reminds me. It's like that year I hurt my arm in '99, and I'm pitching in a playoff game against the Mets, and I had a hole in my rotator cuff and torn labrum. And I remember my dad said, "How you doing it?" I said, "Dad, I just have to be in pain like about 120 times." And he said, "What?" He said, "What?" I said, "Well, every pitch I throw will be painful, but it only lasts for a second. I throw the pitch, I'll be in pain. Okay, now I'll get ready for the next pitch." I ended up throwing 124 pitches that night. But it's like, but what was funny is like my mentality is like, I can throw this pitch, I'll be in pain, but I'll get over it. And then I'll throw the next pitch and I'll be in pain. So maybe, hopefully this isn't the case for Bellinger. Maybe he's thinking, I'll go for the gusto, and then I'll worry about this pain later.
Right.
And sometimes, look, man, by the way, you're a military guy. And if anyone's a military person, man or woman in this thread, let me just tip my hat to you, because I appreciate you guys so much and everything and I always tell people, I said, man, appreciate that flag, appreciate that anthem, appreciate that military, because of that, we get to live out our dream and play a kid's game and get paid stupid money for, and people show up and then they elevate you to a level you don't belong at. I'm going to tell you who should be elevated. Military, first responders, all the good, hardworking people that keep our country safe and the greatness. Let's raise those people up, man. So anyways, boss, I'm tipping my hat to you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I know you mean it, because, after we did a 2-day workshop together in St. Louis, and we went to dinner that night with a couple in the group, or a group of about 10 people.
Yeah.
He told me that night, just me and you, personal one-on-one. It wasn't a Facebook Live. So I know that comes from your heart. Patrick Erickson just commented. He's a 20-year firefighter medic, and he says, thank you.
Whew.
Tommy Schaaf just commented, just placed my order for 100 books. Listen,
you guys are giving me goosebumps, man. I'm humbled. I'll say this. And Ron, I want you to hold me to it. And I'm telling the group, everyone in this group, and I can't see all the comments and stuff right now because I can't figure out technology.
Right.
All right, but here's what I would tell you. Anybody in the group, look, I don't just want you to join the book club, and I don't just want you to buy the books. And for you, though, for those of you that are buying multiple books and this and that, and you're going to, hopefully give those away as gifts and this and that, let me know how I can help. And I mean it, by the way. It's funny that, we think about this COVID thing, and I'm training some companies. I'm doing some stuff for some companies through Zooms, and it's a funny, and I'm not saying this to pat myself on the back or nothing. So I don't want you guys to think that at all, because, I just don't, anyways, my point is I've done a lot of stuff this year, and the companies say, well, what do we need to pay you? I said, you're going to pay me nothing. I'm doing everything for free this year. Everything, by the way.
Wow.
I haven't done one thing outside of our businesses, and I build a lot of companies. We got a private equity fund. And by the way, I've been blessed way too much in my life, and I'm grateful and thankful for it. But when I tell people nothing, free, and I tell them, I say, man, I would love if you just endorse the book, buy the book, spread the word, because that would mean more to me than any money you can give me. And it blows people away because I said to my father, I said, Dad, when he was not doing well, I said, Dad, I said, I'm going to take everything you gave me and I'm going to pass it on. I said, so what it means to me is when I get to do something, share something, a part of that is I get to share my father's legacy. Man, I'm going to tell you something. That's 1,000,000 times more meaningful to me than money. Because, man, listen, let's think about it, guys. We can all make money. It's going to come and go. It's going to circulate. It's like, it might camp out in our place for a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's like, whatever. It is what it is. But I'm going to tell you something. Authenticity, being yourself, being a servant, serving people, helping people. Listen, think about this question. How about this question? If you think about when's the last time you said to someone, what can I do for you?
Right.
Woo. So I would tell you, to the guys that are buying those books, just let me know, man. And if it's to jump on and do a Facebook, if it's whatever, man, I'm all in. And I say, now listen, that doesn't mean I'm all in tomorrow and I can do everything tomorrow.
Yeah.
It means we'll figure shit out. We'll figure stuff out, right?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out, boss. So,
well, and I know that, from what as a non-Yankees fan watching your dad, I never wanted him to win. Okay. But with that said, you could see the class of the man, and it just comes across how genuine and good of a person and kind he was. And I never met him. I don't know him, but there's just sometimes you can just tell that about somebody, even when you're don't want that team to win.
Yeah, I'll say this and I'll keep it quick, but when he passed and Major League Baseball got the news, and it was mind-boggling. It didn't matter where we went publicly, it was on the TV somewhere. And dang it, these goosebumps were on, and it was everywhere. And the family couldn't hide from it. And we weren't trying to hide from it. But everywhere we went, he was everywhere on TV. And some of his former teammates, some of the people he managed for, there were baseball owners, writers, there were guys that were on teams that he coached. Everyone was paying their tribute to my father. And I remember I said to my mom, I said, wow, like the baseball world, look how they thought of Dad, right? And she was even blown away. She was like, we always knew he was special. Don't get me wrong. But to see how admired and the tribute. And then I said to my mom, I said, Mom, as good as all that is and all the tributes they're paying, we're grateful for it all. I said, but you know what's incredible, Mom? That's his public life. I said, privately, he was 10 times the father. He was 10 times the friend. He was 10 times the mentor to us, to me and Mel Jr. And he was 10 times that person to us. And, a lot of people publicly look really good and privately they become monsters. Right. And my father was 10 times his public persona. And because of that, it gives me great pride and honor to try to keep his legacy and share his stories and share stories with people and lessons, and by the way, they weren't all fun lessons. There were times, Dad had to have a tough lesson with us. I haven't been a perfect angel. And he would always be like, man, Todd, he would say to me, he said, you screwed up. I said, yeah. And he would always say, if you throw up, you got to sleep in it. And what he meant was you got to take responsibility for your mess. And there would be times I would call Dad. I said, Dad, I did it again. He says, did you sleep in it? I said, yeah, I own it. He says, good for you.
Well, it's such an incredible story. And just, so many, you shared with me a story once about your dad. You said that y'all were, and then I think we'll wrap this up at right about 7 o'clock on the dot for Central Time, just because I want to leave the group wanting more, and I want them to tune in live next time, because I got so many stories. I've read your books, I've watched your career, I have talked to you as a friend, so I got like 30, 40 questions still. I do want to point out, and I'm sure everybody sees those World Series trophies in the back.
I got to tell you something funny, and I told you I would get all the rings out. I keep my rings in the safe. Now I have 3 rings, and then I have my dad's 1998 World Championship ring.
Wow.
He gifted that to me, and it's a special ring because they broke some records, but that's not why it's special. It's special because I pitched against him in Game 1, Rangers Yankees, against the Yankees and David Wells, and I took it. I pitched about as good as I could pitch in that game. I threw a complete game, got beat 2-0. Wow. And even George Steinbrenner in the lobby, I was with my dad after the game, and even Steinbrenner walked by and he says, "Hey, nice game, kid." And I was like, "Yeah, you don't mean that. I mean, you only saying that because you won, but whatever." But it was kind of cool. I mean, George Steinbrenner, I know he said at least one nice thing in his life, but in any case, it was a cool time. But I told you I would get the rings out. But I'm gonna tell you something funny. So we go to the safe, and I got a big one of those big metal, safes, and it's got all of our stuff in it, whatever. And the rings stay in that safe. Well, it won't unlock.
That's okay. That's okay. This gives the group things to look forward to, because
we're going to have to drill it. And I told my wife, I said, well, one thing about it, if we can't get in, they're safe.
They're safe in the safe.
Yeah, they're safe in the safe. So we'll have it drilled. The next time I'll share those rings with the people.
Yeah.
I think they're cool because of what they represent.
Absolutely.
They're all sparkly, whatever. But yeah.
Well, it's once I had somebody steal some things from me, and they stole my purple belt in jiu-jitsu, which, what a weird thing to steal. And somebody's like, "Are you mad?" I'm like, "Dude, they can't steal what that belt represents. The belt cost me $5. They're not stealing what the belt represents."
That's right.
I do want to end with one story about your dad that I know that you told me, and it's a story that probably be quick for you to tell. And then I want to hear what you have what you're hoping for just to watch tonight in the World Series, if you're going to watch it, or if you're not, what you hope.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be
story that you told me once. You said this was towards the end of his life, and you said that y'all were driving around somewhere. I don't know if it was up in the mountains or something, and he made a comment that just caught you off guard, and you looked over at him. And that's I have thought about that comment so many times. What was it?
So prior to that moment, I was in Arizona. I live in Arizona, and my mom and dad lived in Seattle, and my mom had called me, and she says, "You need to get to Seattle now." And my dad had been battling multiple myeloma, and I was like, "Is it not good?" And she says, "It's not good." And I'm like, "I'm on my way." And I was driving down the freeway 101 here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I called my wife. I said, "Get me on any flight. I don't care what it is, going to Seattle. I'm headed to the airport." And I'm like, "Dad ain't good." And I get to the airport. I jump on a flight. I land in Seattle. I go right to the cancer hospital, and I walk into his room. He's running a fever of over 105. He didn't recognize me. He didn't know what decade it was. Nothing. And I got to tell you, for a moment, guys, it was so hard because my father meant so much to us. And when he didn't recognize me, for a minute, personally, I was so hurt. And then the next minute, I'm like, wow, Dad's in bad shape. So, I was selfish for like 1 second, maybe, like he doesn't even know who I am. And it hurt me because it's my hero laying there. And 3 days later, Ron, and the doctors were in disbelief, the family. 3 days later, he led our family out of that hospital, and he wouldn't allow the hospital to put him in a wheelchair. And I'll never forget, we got to his house, and he said to me, "Let's take a drive in the mountains." I said, "I'm in, Dad, whatever you want." And I'm driving his pickup, and he's in the passenger, and we're going up through Snoqualmie. It's beautiful, mountains, waterfalls, cabins. And he said to me as I'm driving, he says, "Todd," he says, "someday I might buy a cabin up here for me and your mother.
That's awesome.
And I'm driving, and I look at him, and I kind of look back, and I don't remember what I said to him at that moment. I just know what I felt. I'm like, damn, Dad, I want you to get through today. Right. I just want you to make it through today. Dad, I want you to make it through today because I want to see you tomorrow. And that night we got back to his house, and I'm staying in the guest room upstairs, and I couldn't sleep, man. And I'm staring at the ceiling, and I was like, how in the hell can my father have vision and long-term vision of living a life with my mother, buying a cabin in the mountain? How can he see that?
Right.
When literally days ago we thought it was the end. And then I realized my dad was given all of his power to the moment and the future, and none of his power over to his current circumstances of him fighting for his life. And that's who he was. And I remember that moment. He inspired me more in that moment than any time when he wore a Yankee uniform. He inspired me more than when I was a kid running around the stadium with Mickey Mantle and Munson and all those guys and Yogi Berra and all these guys. I was more inspired at 50. I was 50 at the time. I'm 55 now. So it's 5 years ago. I was more inspired then. And then the next morning I said, and I had so much come over me. And I walked downstairs. He was sitting in his chair the next morning having a cup of coffee. And I said, Dad, I need to write a book. And he said, yeah, you should, Todd. And I go, Dad, I didn't tell you what I was going to write a book on. And I said, Dad, you inspired me like just the way you are, just the way. And I said, I want to write a book of all the lessons. I want to write a book of telling people like, hey, I was in a bad situation, but I had my father and other people around me that helped me out of the situation. I said, because what I realized at that moment was I'd never passed any lesson along to someone else to help them. See, I'd taken everything my father given me selfishly to help me, but never to help someone else. And that's when I said, I'm gonna start writing books. And I wrote Relentless Success. And this book is absolutely The Observer's a tribute to my father, because my father is the ultimate observer. He is the ultimate observer. He is the ultimate not to react in a bad way to a stimulated situation, that he would find a way to be calm and recollect his thinking and always express himself. And he was the ultimate. So this book, The Observer, that's why I'm so proud of it. And I'm going to be out there. By the way, I'll be out pounding the table. And Ron, we all know, you might make money on your books, but I don't make money on books. And we know it's all about the service and getting the message out and everything else. And then the book club itself, not to come back to the book, but I needed to relate. It relates to my father, but what's the book club? The book club is 37 different weeks in 2021, me taking 30 minutes to explain the chapter, but how that chapter influenced my real life and what it was really like, so that people can get the message and be able to apply it, so they'll understand it better than just reading it. So I'm jacked out of my mind for it. But my father, man, I could listen. I could stay on for weeks and just tell you story after story. I'll say this: a week after his passing, I sat with my journal and I just started writing lessons from my father, and everything I could, everything through reflection, back to when he told us, if you're not going to have fun playing the game, don't play it.
Right.
I was a kid. Back to when we were in the woods, in the mountains, and we're in the middle of a storm and he's sleeping and me and my brother can't sleep. And we're like, Dad, how are you sleeping? He was like, you guys are worried about things you can't control. Stop. Like, you guys are fools, right? And there's so many lessons in and out of the game of baseball, but in life. And I just started writing them. And then I wrote a blog about some of them off of my website. So for the baseball people, you could go to my blog on your website and go back to, go back to when I wrote that blog about my father. I think I titled it Lessons from a Father. And it was like, you could really feel my heart. And it was a few weeks after my dad had passed and this and that. But I just so grateful. I tell you, you can't pick your parents, but whew, man, I got some good ones, man. My mom and my dad are unbelievable people, and I'm grateful for it. So, and I always tell people, man, if you didn't have great parents, go be one.
Right.
You know, kind of like what Harvey said, like change, like don't carry the baggage. Like if you didn't have good parents, go be the best parent you can be now. Like be a great parent, be someone your kids. And listen, I got 5 kids and I got some teenagers, so they don't think I'm too good, too smart right now. But I also have a 24-year-old, and they all come back around and they're like, okay, Dad, I need your opinion. Actually, you're smarter than I thought you were when I was 18. So, pretty cool stuff.
Well, man, it's you do have and I'm not gonna ask you about it this time because we're gonna save it for next time. But there's stories of you having a bad time in your career and you're calling in, you know, wanting to talk to mom or dad or one of the vice versa. That was a great
story. Man.
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say there's so many. You're right, and I can't remember. I forgot I shared all these with you, but it's like they're so cool because I was such a little. I was like, there was times where I was being a big baby, and my dad wouldn't play it. He was like, you know, but he would do it in a way, man. Always when I hung up the phone, I always had this new level of belief because my father believed in me, but he wouldn't let me play victim. And we can tell these stories later. I want to say this, Ron, before we get off here is this is a baseball group, baseball people. Look, we're baseball. We love the game. We love the sport. We're going to all watch the game tonight. It's going to be awesome. And you know, and like I said to you, I want to tell them so they know it came directly. And it's like, hey, man, throughout the winter, maybe there's some trades, things going on. We can get on and we can just shoot. And here's what I want everyone to know. I might have an opinion, and it might be not a very good one. And just because I played the game and because I grew up with a famous father who played in New York doesn't mean that I know everything about the game. Matter of fact, your opinion about certain things that we might discuss might actually be the right. I might be wrong. And by the way, I'm okay with that. But I think it'll be fun. We can have this camaraderie of baseball, not only this winter, but how about next year? Wouldn't it be fun? We get on and it's like, what do you think about this? What about that? And we interact with all the people on here. We create a camaraderie in this baseball talk that's never been done. And then maybe, you know what I can do too is maybe I'll reach out and we'll see if we can get some guys that are playing the game today. Maybe we'll get them on your show, and that would be better than me being on the show. And maybe it's my gift to all the people that are buying books and being a part of my book club. It'd be my gift back that, hey man, I'll get my brother on. Maybe we'll get, I don't know, maybe we'll get Don Mattingly on sometime. I don't know. I don't make any promises but I'm going to tell you something. You know, I'll bend these guys' arms a little bit. We'll get them on the show, boss. We'll have some fun with it.
Well, man, you know, I know that it's exciting for me. I know it's exciting for the group because, you know, it just brings so much credibility to the group and things we're doing here. And today, I posted, hey, we got a guy who's going to be a World Series champion, and his dad was a World Series champion, and he played 1 year for the Texas Rangers. Who was he? I mean, such knowledgeable people. It was like, Scott.
Yeah.
And then the guesses went off the rails. I don't know what they were thinking, but the first several guesses were on.
I was having so much fun watching that, by the way.
Man, so what? Oh, by the way, I'll say this, and then I'll ask you what do you want to happen tonight, and then I'll say goodnight. But Patrick Erickson, who is a 20-year firefighter medic, his comment was, this video has helped me more than you can imagine, speaking to me in every aspect. Thank you, Todd. I needed this.
Oh, man. Look, thanks for that, because it makes this worth it, right? Doesn't that feel good, Ron? I know you feel good about it, and I feel good about it, and you know, I'm grateful that I always say that prayer before I go anywhere. It's like, man, can one person get one thing that helps them somehow, some way? And I always say, Todd, just be your authentic self. And man, I just want the whole group to also understand, guys, I'm so unfinished. I'm like, I got so much growth to do. I pursue. So if people say, Todd, what is it you do every day? Here's what I do every day. I try to find a way to get a little bit better every single day. I try to be a little bit better father. I try to be a little bit better husband. I try to be a little bit better friend, a little bit better servant. I try to be a little bit better in my businesses. You know, I just try to get a little bit better every single day. And let's not forget, none of us in this group, every breath we take is a gift. It's a gift, man. You know, when, you know, I used to joke and they say, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. I say, yeah, as long as I go vertical, I'll be there. But it ain't no joke.
Right.
You know, it's no joke. And when you look at what's going on around the world and, you know, people losing their lives and all these things, it's like, man, it's like, it's no joke. And I'll leave you with this. There's a question I ask myself every night. And here's the question. Is this the best you can do?
Wow.
The answer to that question always gives me something to work on the next day. I love it. Every time. I've never answered, yep. I've never said, yeah. I mean, listen, after this interview, I can ask myself, Todd, is that the best? Come on, bro. You can be better than that for these people. Is that the best? And I'll be like, you know, I should have maybe calmed down a little bit, not been so energetic. What? I mean, whatever. I'm just saying, it's like, and the other thing I do every night, every single night, guys, is I write in a journal. And I write the date at the top, and I start writing everything I'm grateful for. And I got to tell you something, that has helped me, that has changed my life. And there's been times, so everyone knows on here, and I feel so blessed and so lucky, like our businesses, our companies have done extraordinarily well this year. And I know not everyone has. And there's times where I'm like, man, is this fair? You know, because we haven't done well. We've done it's been crazy. And I'm grateful and I'm blessed for that. But I also know it's not real sometimes. It's not where everywhere. So, but I would just tell you guys, being grateful for me has been life-changing, because even though things are going well now, there's been times after my baseball career, after making over $50 million, there were times in 1998, 1999, I'm already messed up. I'm talking about 2008, 2009. I got the wrong decade. 2008, 2009, there were moments I was laying in my bed, staring at that ceiling, and I couldn't sleep, because I felt like everything that I'd done my whole baseball career, I was watching all of the being overpaid for 15 years. I was watching everything and all of our companies and everything I'd done. I was watching it go up in smoke, and I was like, wow. And I was like, and I had to start over a decade ago. But I started over with winning principles, with the understanding it takes hard work. I started over playing the long-term game. I started over realizing that good people make a difference. That good people make a difference. Matter of fact, people always say, Todd, what was the difference between 1991, where you guys didn't win, and 1992? I said, it's simple. It's the people. Hey, Todd, what's the difference between that company and that company? I said, oh, that's simple. It's the people. Listen, it's always the people. and we've rebuilt this empire. And I would tell you, it's not about money. We have wealth we didn't have before. I have spiritual wealth. I have family wealth that I didn't have before. Man, I got a gorgeous wife. 20 years now we've been married. She's my best friend. She's my soulmate. I got 5 awesome children. And I tell my kids every day, go out and fail, please. Because the failure will become the greatest teacher to what you need to do and work on to get better. So if you don't fail and you don't try, you won't learn. So be grateful every night. Let me shut up, because I could talk all night, because I'm just excited to be around baseball people. And Ron, I tell you, Ron White, man, you're a hero, boss, and I appreciate you, and thank you so much for blessing, you know, my book and this group and putting this thing together and allowing me to come on and ramble. Thank you for the comments in there, for the people supporting the book. I want to thank everyone for the comments, and and that if anything meant something to you, and as you say it and talk through the, by the way, I'll go on and look at all the comments afterwards. I promise you I'll do that. And I would just tell you, man, I'm grateful for this group. I'm humble that Ron, we can hang out over the course of next year's baseball season and this and that or whatever. So anytime, I'll say this, anytime Ron White wants me to jump on here, I'm in.
Well, I will respect that and not overuse that, but I respect that. And guys, this has been such an honor and a privilege to have a good person. A good person is above being a World Series champion in Major League Baseball and all that. Although that's really good, especially for this group, but more and above that, Todd is just a great human, and just as Patrick said, everything meant so much to you, and you moved me whenever you talk. So I know everybody was thankful for it. Guys, go to the Facebook.com and join the group. It's in the comment. I've put it in the comment here. It's like a string of numbers, but go join the group, and it's a book club. It's a book club about Todd's book where he'll walk you through some of the principles and that kind of stuff, and y'all talk about the book. So join the Facebook group. Tommy Schaaf has got 100 of those books. So
wow.
Todd, let's go enjoy some baseball, and let's catch up soon.
Thank you, man. God bless everyone. Thank you.
I'm going to end it. Thank you.
Thank you.